The jungle screamed with life around Dr. Lena Cross as she knelt beside a flowering vine, carefully collecting samples into her specimen bag. Sweat dripped down her forehead despite the cooling unit built into her field suit. Vertus 7 was not a forgiving place, but that was exactly why she loved it here. Her scanner beeped softly as it analyzed the plant's chemical composition. Another potential medicine, perhaps. Another reason why humanity needed to preserve this moon instead of strip mining it, like the corporations wanted. She was about to move to the next cluster of flowers when a sound cut through the ambient noise of the jungle. A cry. High-pitched. Desperate. Lena froze. She knew that sound. Every researcher on Vertus 7 had been trained to recognize it and run in the opposite direction. It was a Ravenclaw stalker, the apex predator that had killed 3 full research teams from other species. The Galactic Council had declared them completely off limits after the last incident. Even observing them from a distance was now forbidden. The cry came again, weaker this time. Lena's hand moved to her communicator, ready to report the sighting and request an immediate evacuation. But something in that sound stopped her finger before it pressed the button. It was not the roar of an adult hunter. It was the whimper of something young and hurt. Every regulation, every safety protocol, every warning she had ever received told her to leave immediately. Lena looked at her scanner, then at the dense foliage where the sound originated. She thought about the Talisian researchers who had died trying to study these creatures. She thought about her own safety. Then she thought about that crying voice and what it meant to be alone and in pain. She moved toward the sound. The terrain grew rougher as she pushed through vines and stepped over roots thicker than her leg. The cries grew louder, more frantic. Lena's heart pounded, but she kept her breathing steady. Whatever she found, panicking would only make things worse. A collapsed cave system appeared before her, rocks and dirt piled in a heap where part of the jungle floor had given way. The cries were coming from beneath the rubble. Lena set down her collection bag and began carefully removing smaller rocks, testing each section for stability. Her hands worked quickly but methodically, the way she had been trained during emergency response courses back on Earth. After 10 minutes of digging, she saw movement. A small paw covered in dark fur with rust-colored patches pushed weakly against a stone. Lena's breath caught. The cub was tiny, probably only a few weeks old. Its leg was bent at an unnatural angle, clearly broken. Blood matted the fur on its shoulder. The moment her shadow fell across the opening, the cub's head snapped up. Even injured and trapped, its instinct was to defend itself. It growled, a sound that would have been intimidating from an adult but came out as a raspy squeak from something so small. Needle-sharp teeth bared at her. Tiny claws scraped against stone. Lena did not move away. She had grown up with dogs, had volunteered at animal shelters since she was 12, had spent her entire adult life studying creatures that others feared. She recognized fear aggression when she saw it. This cub was not dangerous. It was terrified. She began speaking softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Nonsense words, really. The kind of soothing sounds that worked across species, across planets, across the vast distance between human and alien. The cub continued growling, but its eyes tracked her movements as she slowly, carefully removed more rocks. When the opening was large enough, Lena reached in. The cub snapped at her hand, but its coordination was off from pain and exhaustion. She pulled back slightly, then tried again, moving slower this time. Her fingers brushed against its fur. The cub flinched but could not escape. Lena wrapped her hands around its small body and lifted gently. The cub thrashed weakly, crying out as the movement jostled its broken leg. She cradled it against her chest, supporting its injured limb carefully. The cub tried to bite her arm, but the thick fabric of her field suit protected her. Its claws scraped uselessly against the material. She sat down right there among the rocks and rubble, holding the struggling creature close to her warmth. Her training told her to assess injuries, to stabilize the patient, to establish trust before treatment. So she simply held the cub and continued speaking in that soft, steady voice. The cub's struggles grew weaker. Whether from exhaustion or blood loss, Lena could not tell. She pulled her emergency medical kit from her belt with one hand, while keeping the cub secure with the other. Inside were basic supplies, human-rated but adaptable for most carbon-based life forms. She had antibiotics, synthetic skin sealant, and flexible splinting material. The shoulder wound needed attention first. Lena applied antibacterial spray, talking the whole time, explaining what she was doing even though the cub could not understand her words. The creature whimpered as the spray touched torn skin but did not try to escape anymore. It was watching her now with large golden eyes that seemed too knowing for something so young. She sealed the wound with synthetic skin, watching as the clear gel bonded with flesh and began the healing process. Then came the difficult part. The broken leg needed to be set before she could splint it. Lena took a deep breath and felt along the break with careful fingers. The cub growled again, a warning sound. "I know," Lena whispered. "I know it hurts, but I need to fix this or you will never walk properly again." She set the bone as quickly as she could. The cub screamed, a sound that cut straight through her heart, but she held firm, aligning the bone and applying the flexible splint before the cub could thrash and undo her work. The splint hardened within seconds, immobilizing the leg. Then something unexpected happened. The cub stopped fighting. It pressed its head against her chest and made a sound she had never heard described in any report about Ravenclaw stalkers. A soft rumbling purr mixed with broken whimpers, the sound of a child seeking comfort. Lena wrapped both arms around the tiny predator and felt it relax into her embrace. Its rapid heartbeat gradually slowed to match her own. The aggressive displays stopped completely. It simply lay there, breathing heavily, accepting her warmth and her presence. She looked down at the rust-colored patches on its dark fur and made a decision that would change everything. "Rusty," she said softly. "That is what I will call you." The cub, Rusty, made that purring sound again and closed his golden eyes. For the first time in his short, painful life, he felt safe. Lena's back ached from the long walk back to the research station. Rusty weighed more than he looked, and carrying him while navigating jungle terrain had tested every muscle in her body. But she refused to put him down. Every time she adjusted her grip, he would make a small, distressed sound and press closer to her warmth. The station's entrance scanner registered her approach and began the decontamination sequence. Lena stepped into the airlock, still cradling Rusty against her chest. Red warning lights flashed immediately. The station's artificial intelligence spoke in its calm, measured voice. "Alert. Unauthorized biological entity detected. Species identification. Ravenclaw stalker juvenile. Galactic Council Protocol 7749. Prohibits entry of Category 5 predators into inhabited research facilities. Please remove the entity immediately." "Override," Lena said firmly. "Medical emergency. Authorization code Cross 7 Alpha. Override denied. Category 5 predators require Level 9 authorization. You possess Level 6 clearance only. The entity must be removed." Lena looked down at Rusty, who was watching the flashing lights with confused golden eyes. His injured leg twitched against the splint. She thought about leaving him outside, about following regulations, about doing things the proper way. Then she thought about what would happen to an injured cub left alone in the jungle. Computer, document this as official protest to Galactic Council regulations. Then open the inner door. Documenting protest. However, I cannot open the inner door without proper authorization. This facility houses 17 researchers from 9 different species. Their safety is my primary concern. The cub is injured and sedated by pain medication. He is not a threat. Open the door or I will override your core protocols manually." There was a pause. The AI processed this information for 3 full seconds, which was an eternity for its quantum processors. "Your credentials indicate expertise in xenobiology and predator behavior. Calculating risk assessment based on your professional judgment. Opening inner door. However, I am required to alert facility director of this protocol violation." The door slid open. Lena stepped into the main corridor just as her colleague, Dr. Raymond Park, came around the corner. He took one look at the creature in her arms and stopped so abruptly that he nearly fell over his own feet. "Lena, tell me that is not what I think it is." "This is Rusty. He was trapped in a cave collapse. His leg is broken and he needs proper medical care." Raymond stared at her like she had lost her mind. "That is a Ravenclaw stalker. They killed 3 Talesian research teams. The Galactic Council banned all contact. You will be arrested for this. He is also a baby who was crying in pain. I am taking him to the medical lab. You can report me if you need to." She walked past Raymond without waiting for his response. Behind her, she heard him mutter something in Korean that she chose not to translate. His footsteps followed her down the corridor, though, which meant he was at least curious enough to see what would happen next. The medical lab was empty at this hour. Most researchers were either sleeping or working in their private quarters. Lena laid Rusty gently on the examination table and began running diagnostic scans. The cub tried to sit up, whimpering as his injured leg prevented movement. Lena placed a hand on his chest, applying gentle pressure until he settled. "His bone structure is fascinating," Raymond said, leaning closer despite his obvious fear. "Look at the density. Even as a juvenile, his skeleton is reinforced for impact resistance, and those claws retract fully into sheaths. I have never seen predator anatomy quite like this. Can you help me, or are you just going to observe?" Lena asked. Raymond hesitated for only a moment before moving to the supply cabinet. "What do you need?" They worked together for the next hour, properly cleaning Rusty's wounds, adjusting the splint for optimal healing, and administering proper pain medication calibrated for his body mass. The cub tolerated all of it with surprising patience, growling only when something hurt particularly badly. By the end, he was purring again, a sound that made Raymond shake his head in disbelief. This should not be possible. Ravenclaws are documented as hyper-aggressive at all life stages, yet he is acting like a domesticated pet. "Because someone is treating him with kindness instead of fear," Lena said. She stroked the fur on Rusty's head, and the cub pushed into her touch. "Animals respond to how we approach them. If you treat something like a monster, it will act like a monster to protect itself." Raymond opened his mouth to argue, but was interrupted by the facility-wide alarm. The AI's voice echoed through every room. "Warning. Multiple Category 5 predators detected at perimeter. Count 12 adults. They are surrounding the facility. Defensive protocols engaging. All personnel report to secure rooms immediately." Lena's blood went cold. She ran to the nearest window and looked outside. In the dim light of Virtus 7's 3 moons, she could see them. Ravenclaw stalkers, each one massive and powerful, moving through the jungle with deadly grace. They circled the research station, eyes glowing in the darkness. "They are looking for him," Raymond whispered. "The pack is looking for their missing cub." Rusty had gone silent on the examination table. His ears perked forward, listening to sounds beyond human hearing. Then he made a sound Lena had not heard before, a high-pitched call, something between a howl and a whistle. Outside, all 12 Ravenclaws stopped moving. Their heads turned toward the medical lab, toward the window, toward the source of that sound. One of them, larger than the others and with distinctive scarring across her shoulders, moved closer. The leader. The mother. "They are going to tear through the walls," Raymond said, backing away from the window. "Lena, we need to evacuate. We need to trigger emergency protocols." But Lena was not looking at the approaching predators. She was looking at Rusty, who was trying to stand on the examination table despite his injured leg. He called out again, his voice full of distress and confusion. He wanted his mother. He wanted his pack. But he also did not want to leave Lena. The mother Ravenclaw reached the window. Up close, she was even more intimidating than the reports suggested. 7 feet of pure muscle and killing instinct. Her claws scraped against the reinforced glass and small cracks appeared in the surface. She could break through if she wanted to. They all could. Lena made a decision that would either save everyone in the station or get her killed. She picked up Rusty, cradling him carefully, and walked toward the exit. "What are you doing?" Raymond grabbed her arm. "You cannot go out there. You will die, or I will give them back their baby and show them that I mean no harm." Lena pulled her arm free. "Stay here. If this goes wrong, seal the facility and report what happened." She left the medical lab and walked down the corridor toward the main exit. Behind her, she heard Raymond curse and then the sound of his footsteps following. At least she would not die alone. The airlock opened. Lena stepped out into the humid night air of Virtus 7, 12 pairs of golden eyes fixed on her immediately. The mother Ravenclaw was less than 20 feet away, her body tense and ready to attack. Every other member of the pack moved closer, forming a semicircle around the human holding their packmate. Lena's hands trembled, but she kept her voice steady. "I am not going to hurt him. I helped him. Look." She knelt down slowly, every movement deliberate and non-threatening. Then she placed Rusty on the ground between herself and the approaching predators. The cub immediately tried to limp toward his mother, dragging his splinted leg awkwardly. The mother Ravenclaw rushed forward and Lena's heart nearly stopped. But the massive predator did not attack. She reached her cub and began examining him with her nose, sniffing the splint, the sealed wounds, the scent of human medicine that now covered him. Rusty made happy sounds and tried to climb onto his mother, but she gently pushed him down, her attention fixed on Lena. The woman and the predator stared at each other. Time seemed to freeze. Then slowly, impossibly, the mother Ravenclaw lay down. Right there in front of the research station, the most dangerous predator on Virtus 7 lowered herself in a posture of acceptance. The rest of the pack followed her lead. 12 massive predators settling into resting positions, watching Lena with what could almost be called curiosity. Rusty limped back to Lena and climbed into her lap. Behind her, Raymond whispered, "I am going to need to rewrite every paper I have ever published about predator behavior." The transport ship descended through Virtus 7's atmosphere with all the grace of a falling brick. Inside the research station, Lena watched its approach on the main screen while Rusty dozed in a nest of blankets she had made for him near her workstation. 3 days had passed since the pack's peaceful acceptance, and she had hoped for at least a few more before the Galactic Council sent someone to investigate. No such luck. The ship bore Talesian military markings. Lena's stomach dropped. The Talesians were the warrior scholars who had lost 5 researchers to Ravenclaws. They would not be sympathetic to her methods. Raymond stood beside her, nervously adjusting his glasses. The message said Rector Vall himself is coming. He is the one who recommended the complete ban on Ravenclaw contact. This is very bad, Lena. Then I will explain what happened. We have documented everything. The pack has been peaceful. No one has been hurt. You broke galactic law. Documentation will not save you from that. The transport landed in the station's docking area. Lena watched as 6 Talesian soldiers emerged first, their scanning equipment sweeping the perimeter for threats. They were tall, nearly 7 feet themselves, with gray skin marked by geometric patterns that indicated rank and family lineage. Their movements were precise and military. Everything about them radiated controlled power. Then came Rector Vall. He was older than the soldiers, his facial patterns more complex and colored with streaks of silver that marked his age and experience. He carried himself with absolute authority, the kind that came from decades of commanding respect and obedience. Lena met them at the entrance. Rusty had woken when the ship landed and now stood beside her, his splinted leg held carefully off the ground. The cub growled softly at the strangers, pressing against Lena's leg. Rector Vall stopped 3 paces away. His eyes moved from Lena to Rusty and back again. "Dr. Lena Cross, you are under arrest for violation of Galactic Council Protocol 7749, which expressly forbids any contact with Category 5 predators designated as existentially dangerous. You will surrender the creature immediately and return with us for tribunal." "With respect, Rector Vall, I cannot do that." The soldiers' hands moved to their weapons. Vall raised one hand, stopping them. "Cannot or will not?" "Both. Rusty's leg is still healing. Moving him now could cause permanent damage, and if you try to take him by force, his mother and the rest of the pack will attack. They are watching us right now from the jungle." Vall's eyes narrowed. He pulled a scanner from his belt and swept the perimeter. The device beeped 12 times, marking 12 heat signatures in the surrounding vegetation. They should have attacked already. Ravenclaws are territorial and aggressive. They kill any being that comes near their young. "Unless that being has proven they can be trusted," Lena said. "I did not threaten Rusty, I healed him. His mother saw that. The pack understands that I am not their enemy." "Impossible. We tried peaceful contact. We tried communication protocols developed over centuries of interspecies research. 5 of my best people died in those attempts. You are human. Your species has only been part of the galactic community for 3 generations. What could you possibly know that we do not?" Lena knelt beside Rusty and stroked his head. The cub leaned into her touch, purring. "I know what it is like to be a mother, to see something small and hurt and feel the need to protect it. No matter what logic says, that instinct is not unique to humans, but we trust it. We act on it. We do not let fear or protocol override basic compassion." Compassion. Vall said the word like it was foreign to him. "My people value honor, strength, wisdom. These are the foundations of successful species interaction. And yet here I am, sitting peacefully with a creature your honor and strength could not even approach without dying." The statement hung in the air between them. Vall's facial patterns flushed darker, a sign of anger in Talesian physiology, but he did not argue because the evidence was right in front of him. A human sitting calmly with a Ravenclaw cub while the mother waited nearby without attacking. Raymond chose that moment to step forward. "Rector Vall, we have been documenting everything. Dr. Cross has made more progress in understanding Ravenclaw social behavior in 3 days than the previous 50 years of research combined. If you arrest her now, we lose an unprecedented opportunity. And if I allow this to continue and someone dies, I will be responsible. Val looked at his soldiers, then back at Lena. I am told you have a proposal. A way to prove this is not merely a temporary anomaly. I want time to study the pack while continuing to care for Rusty. If the pack accepts me over weeks and months, it proves that emotional bonding works where dominance displays and logic failed. If I am wrong, then arrest me, but at least let the experiment proceed. Val considered this. His hand moved to a communication device at his belt. Counsel, this is Rector Val. I recommend we allow Dr. Cross to continue her work under strict monitoring. The potential knowledge gain outweighs the risk, provided we maintain military presence to intervene if necessary. The response came quickly. Permission granted. You will remain on site to oversee operations and ensure compliance with modified safety protocols. Val's expression suggested he had expected a different answer, but he nodded. Very well, Dr. Cross, you have 3 months. I will document your methods and report on their effectiveness. But understand this. At the first sign of aggression from the pack, we will evacuate all personnel and eliminate the threat. Am I clear? Very clear. Thank you, Rector. Over the following weeks, Val watched Lena work with a mixture of skepticism and grudging respect. She spent hours each day sitting near the pack, always with Rusty close by. She learned to recognize individual pack members by their markings and behaviors. She discovered that they communicated through a complex system of vocalizations, body language, and scent marking that previous researchers had dismissed as simple animal instinct. Val tried to replicate her methods. He approached the pack with slow movements and calm postures, offering no threat. The Ravenclaws snarled and drove him back within seconds. He tried again with a different approach, using recorded sounds of Rusty to establish peaceful intent. The mother Ravenclaw charged him, stopping only when Lena intervened. Why does it work for you and not for me? Val demanded one evening as they reviewed the day's recordings. Because you are still trying to dominate the interaction. You want to control the outcome. They can sense that. I just sit with them and let them decide how close they want to get. That is not a scientific method. That is just waiting. No, it is trust. I trust them not to hurt me, so they trust me not to hurt them. Your people approach every interaction as a test of strength. Ravenclaws are apex predators. They will always respond to that challenge. Val sat in silence for a long moment. 3 of the people I lost were friends. One was my own daughter. She believed she could communicate with them through gesture and offering gifts. They tore her apart in seconds. Lena felt her chest tighten. I am sorry. That should not have happened to her or to any of them. She was brave and intelligent, but she approached them as problems to solve. You approach them as individuals to know. I am beginning to understand the difference. The breakthrough came in the 4th week. A young Ravenclaw, barely older than Rusty, approached the research station alone. It carried something in its mouth. A fresh kill, some kind of jungle rodent. It dropped the prey at Lena's feet and backed away quickly. Raymond, monitoring from inside, nearly shouted into the communicator. Lena, that is a gift. That is how pack members show acceptance and establish social bonds. It is offering you food. Lena looked at the dead animal, then at the young Ravenclaw watching her nervously. She picked up the prey and took a small bite, even though the raw meat made her stomach turn. The young Ravenclaw made a happy chirping sound and bounded away. Val, standing beside Raymond at the monitors, shook his head slowly. She just ate raw meat to avoid insulting a predator. This is insane. This is humanity, Raymond replied. We would rather share a meal with monsters than fight them. By the 8th week, the pack was bringing Lena on their hunts. She could not keep up with their speed, but they slowed their pace and waited for her. Rusty's leg had healed enough for him to run, though he still had a slight limp. He stayed close to Lena during the hunts, showing her which plants were safe to touch and which animals the pack avoided. The mother Ravenclaw began touching Lena with her nose, the way she touched her own cubs. Pack grooming. Pack acceptance. Val submitted his report to the Galactic Council in the 10th week. His conclusion was simple. Humanity possessed an evolutionary advantage that other species lacked. They formed emotional bonds that transcended logic and survival instinct. This trait made them uniquely qualified to bridge the gap between civilization and the wild. On the last day of the 3-month observation period, Val found Lena sitting among the pack as they rested after a successful hunt. Rusty was asleep across her lap. 2 other cubs were curled up against her sides. The mother Ravenclaw had her massive head resting on Lena's shoulder. "You have proven your point, Dr. Cross. I will recommend to the Council that humans be designated as primary wildlife mediators for all Category 5 predator research. You have accomplished something my entire species could not." Lena smiled tiredly. "You could learn to do it too, Rector. You just have to stop seeing every interaction as a battle to win." "Perhaps. But that would require changing fundamental aspects of Talesian nature. You humans seem born for this work." He paused. "My daughter would have liked you. I wish I could have met her." As Val walked back to the station, he sent one more message to the Council. It contained 3 words that would change humanity's role in the galaxy forever. Let them teach us. The mining drones arrived at dawn, their engines drowning out the natural sounds of the jungle. Lena woke to Rusty's distressed whining and the vibration of heavy machinery moving through the forest. She stumbled out of her quarters to find the entire research station in chaos. Raymond met her in the main corridor, already dressed and holding a data tablet. Galactic Resources Union. They have permits signed by the Planetary Development Committee. They are starting preliminary surveys for mineral extraction. They cannot do that. This is protected research territory. Protected for research, yes, but not protected from commercial development if the economic value exceeds scientific value. They filed all the proper paperwork 3 months ago. It just got approved. Lena grabbed the tablet and scrolled through the documents. Legal language filled page after page, but the summary was clear enough. Galactic Resources Union had obtained rights to mine 40% of Verta 7's jungle territory. The surveys would begin immediately. Full operations would start within 6 weeks. She looked out the nearest window. In the distance, she could see the drones cutting down trees, clearing paths for larger equipment to follow. The pack's primary hunting ground. The territory where Rusty had been born. "We have to stop this. Lena, we cannot. The permits are legal. The Galactic Council signed off on it. If we interfere, we will be arrested for obstruction of commercial operations." But Lena was already moving toward the equipment room. She pulled on her field suit and grabbed her communicator. "Then I will not interfere with their operation. I will just document what happens when they disturb Ravenclaw territory." Raymond caught up with her at the exit. "You think the pack will attack?" "I think the pack will defend their home. And when that happens, the company will demand the right to exterminate them. We need evidence that the Ravenclaws are only protecting themselves, not being randomly aggressive." They took a transport sled into the jungle, following the sound of the mining drones. Rusty ran alongside them. His leg fully healed now, though he still favored it slightly when tired. He had grown larger in the past months, nearly the size of a full adult, though still lanky with youth. His rust-colored patches had darkened to match his mother's coloring. The mining site was chaos. Drones hovered at tree height, cutting through trunks with laser precision. Ground vehicles churned up soil and vegetation, creating muddy tracks through what had been pristine forest. Dozens of workers in protective suits moved between machines, tagging resources and updating survey maps, and watching from the jungle edge. Barely visible in the shadows was the pack. Lena counted 14 Ravenclaws now. The pack had grown. 2 new cubs had been born since she started her research. All of them were focused on the mining operation with predatory intensity, waiting, assessing. "This is very bad," Raymond whispered. "They are hunting pack behavior. Look at how they are positioning themselves. They are preparing to attack." Before Lena could respond, one of the mining drones changed course. It moved away from the designated clearing area and headed directly toward a cluster of massive trees where the pack had established their main den. The operator probably did not realize what those trees represented. To him, they were just more resources to harvest. The mother Ravenclaw made a sound Lena had never heard before. A warning roar that shook the air itself. The entire pack erupted from the jungle. They did not attack the workers. They attacked the machines. Claws tore through drone housings. Teeth clamped on mechanical arms and twisted until metal screamed. Within 30 seconds, half the drones were destroyed or disabled. The ground vehicles fared no better as Ravenclaws leaped onto them, smashing sensor arrays and ripping open fuel lines. The workers scattered, running for the safety of the transport ships parked at the edge of the clearing. Smart. The pack ignored them completely, focused entirely on destroying the machines that threatened their territory. Lena recorded everything with her handheld scanner. Every moment of the attack documented. Every detail captured. Security forces arrived within minutes. They emerged from the transport ships with neural disruptors and containment fields. Military-grade equipment designed to handle dangerous wildlife. They formed a perimeter around the workers and began firing at the Ravenclaws. The pack retreated into the jungle, dragging their injured with them. Lena counted 3 pack members limping badly. One of the new cubs was bleeding from a head wound. The workers were unharmed. The machines were destroyed. A tall Viridian in an expensive suit emerged from the largest transport ship. Director Sean, according to the identification tags displayed on Lena's scanner, the executive in charge of this operation. Viridians were logical beings, their entire culture built on efficiency and resource optimization. Emotion was considered a weakness to them. Director Sean surveyed the damage with cold calculation. Total equipment loss, 400,000 galactic credits. Projected delay, 3 days for replacement equipment. Cause Category 5 predators. Solution, elimination of hostile wildlife. They were protecting their den, Lena said, stepping forward. Your drones were heading directly for their home. They only attacked machines, not people. That shows restraint and intelligence. Director Sean's expression did not change. It shows property damage and economic disruption. Dr. Cross, I presume. Your research with these creatures is noted. However, commercial operations take precedence over scientific curiosity. The Galactic Council has granted us the authority to neutralize any threats to our workers and equipment. These creatures are not threats. They are defending their territory from invasion. If you adjust your operation to avoid their den sites and primary hunting grounds, they will leave you alone. That would reduce our viable mining area by 18%. Unacceptable. We have permits for 40% of this territory, and we will utilize the full extent of those permits. Raymond pulled Lena aside. She will not negotiate. Viridians see nature as a resource to manage, nothing more. To her, the Ravenclaws are no different than inconvenient weather, patterns. Then I need to make the Council understand what is really happening here. Lena activated her long-range communicator and requested an emergency session with the Galactic Council's Wildlife Protection Committee. The request was denied. The response message was brief. Commercial development permits superseded wildlife concerns on non-homeworld planets. The mining operation would continue as scheduled. Lena felt cold spread through her chest. She looked back at the jungle where the pack had disappeared. Rusty pressed against her leg, whining softly. He could sense her distress. What do we do now? Raymond asked. We document everything. Every attack, every injury, every decision the company makes. If they are going to exterminate the pack, I'm going to make sure the entire galaxy knows it was murder, not pest control. Over the next week, the pattern repeated. Mining equipment entered Ravenclaw territory. The pack attacked machines but avoided workers. Security forces drove them back. More Ravenclaws were injured. Director Sean submitted formal complaints to the Galactic Council, each one demanding immediate action against the hostile wildlife. Then came the order Lena had been dreading. Galactic Council authorization for lethal force. Security teams were cleared to eliminate the pack if attacks continued. Lena stood in the research station, staring at the official document on her screen. Beside her, Rector Val reviewed the same information with a grim expression. He had stayed on Vertus 7 after his initial observation period, documenting Lena's continued success with the pack. There must be something we can do, Lena said. Some legal challenge, some protocol we can invoke. I have tried everything within Talisian authority. The permits are legitimate. The company has rights to that territory. In galactic law, wildlife protection is secondary to economic development unless the species is classified as sentient or endangered. Ravenclaws are neither. Then we change the classification. We have months of data showing complex social structures, communication, and intelligence. We can prove they are more than just animals. That process takes years. We have days at most. Rusty had been lying near Lena's feet, but now he stood suddenly. His ears perked forward, listening to something beyond human hearing. A moment later, the station's perimeter alarms activated. The main screen showed the reason. Director Sean had arrived with 20 security personnel. All of them were armed with lethal weapons. All of them wore the body armor of professional hunters. Dr. Cross, please exit the facility. We are implementing the final solution to your predator problem. Our teams will track and eliminate every Ravenclaw on this planet within 48 hours. Your research project is hereby terminated. Lena ran outside, Rusty at her heels. The hunting teams were already deploying into the jungle, their equipment tracking the pack's heat signatures. She could see the markers on their tactical displays, 14 Ravenclaws, including 2 cubs, clustered together in their den area. You are going to kill mothers and children to make mining easier? We are going to neutralize a threat to galactic commerce. This is not personal, Dr. Cross, this is business. The hunting teams moved into the jungle. Lena's communicator chirped with tracking data. The teams were closing in on the den, 500 meters, 400, 300. Then Rusty did something unexpected. He tilted his head back and howled. The sound carried across the jungle, a cry that combined human speech patterns with Ravenclaw vocalizations, a warning, a plea. The pack responded immediately. They emerged from their den and began moving away from the approaching hunters, heading toward the research station. Toward Lena, toward the only human they trusted to protect them. Director Sean smiled coldly. How convenient. They are coming directly to us. This will save time. The security teams raised their weapons. Lena threw herself between them and the approaching pack. Time seemed to slow as Lena stood between the armed security forces and the approaching pack. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She could feel Rusty pressed against her leg, his body tense and ready to fight despite knowing he would lose. She could see the mother Ravenclaw leading the pack toward them, trusting that Lena would keep them safe. Move aside, Dr. Cross, Director Sean said. Her voice remained calm and cold. You are obstructing a lawful operation. Step away or you will be charged with interference. No. Lena's voice did not shake. You want to kill them? You will have to go through me first. The security team leader, a broad-shouldered Corvian with military scars across his face, spoke into his communicator. Command, we have a human obstruction, requesting clearance to proceed. For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. The pack was now only 50 meters away, close enough that Lena could see the injuries on their bodies from previous security encounters. Close enough to see the 2 small cubs trying to keep up with the adults. Close enough to see the trust in the mother Ravenclaw's eyes as she looked at Lena. Then the security team opened fire. Everything happened at once. Lena tried to shield Rusty with her body. The mother Ravenclaw leaped forward with impossible speed. Neural disruptor bolts filled the air with blue light. And then someone else was there, standing beside Lena with an energy shield activated. Rector Vol. His shield absorbed the first volley of shots. Other researchers from the station poured out behind him, some carrying their own defensive equipment, others simply standing in a line between the security forces and the pack. Raymond was there, Dr. Sarah Kim from the botany department, even old Dr. Felix Okonkwo, who had never approved of Lena's methods, stood with them. Stand down, Vol commanded. His voice carried the weight of Talesian military authority. You will not harm these creatures or the researchers protecting them. You have no authority here, Rector, Director Sean replied. This is a commercial operation zone. I have the authority of the Talesian Empire, which holds 3 seats on the Galactic Council. I am formally invoking Protocol 4421, protection of sapient species pending classification review. Ravenclaws are not classified as sapient. Then we will test that classification right now. Val pulled out a recording device. Dr. Cross, please demonstrate. Lena understood immediately. She knelt beside Rusty and looked into his golden eyes. Rusty, I need you to show them. Show them you understand. 1 howl for yes, 2 for no. Can you do that? Rusty tilted his head, processing the request. Then he howled once. Clear and unmistakable. Do you understand that those people want to hurt your family? 1 howl, yes. Do you want to attack them? 2 howls, no. Do you trust me to protect you? 1 howl, followed by Rusty pressing his forehead against her chest. Yes. The security team had lowered their weapons slightly, watching this exchange with confusion. Director Sean's cold expression finally showed a crack of uncertainty. Rector Vol recorded every second. Ravenclaws demonstrate clear understanding of complex questions, ability to communicate intentionally, and conscious choice in their actions. Under galactic law, any species showing these traits must be evaluated for sapient classification before lethal force is authorized. I am formally requesting an immediate suspension of elimination orders pending full evaluation. That evaluation could take months, Director Shan protested. Then your mining operation will wait months. Or you can negotiate a compromise with Dr. Cross regarding territorial boundaries. Your choice. Director Shan's fingers twitched, probably calculating profit losses versus legal delays. Finally, she spoke. What compromise do you propose, Dr. Cross? Establish protected corridors that allow the pack to access their traditional hunting grounds and water sources. Restrict mining to areas outside their den sites and primary territory. In exchange, I will work with the pack to keep them away from your operational zones. That still reduces our mining area by 18%. It also eliminates equipment losses, work delays, and legal challenges. Calculate the actual cost, Director. I think you will find cooperation is more profitable than conflict. Director Shan pulled out her own data tablet and ran projections. Her expression remained neutral, but Lena could see the numbers scrolling across the screen. Lost equipment, 400,000 credits. Replacement delays, 3 days per incident. Legal fees if the sapient classification went through, potentially millions. Projected profit loss from reduced mining area, manageable. Very well. I will agree to this compromise under 3 conditions. First, you will provide daily reports confirming the pack remains outside our zones. Second, you will take full legal responsibility if any worker is injured. Third, you will establish clear boundary markers that both humans and Ravenclaws can recognize. Agreed to all 3 conditions, Lena said. The security forces stood down. Slowly, weapons lowered. The pack remained alert but did not advance. The mother Ravenclaw watched Director Shan with eyes that held more intelligence than most people wanted to acknowledge in a predator. Over the following days, Lena worked to establish the boundaries. She walked the perimeter of the protected zones with Rusty and the pack, using scent markers and visual signals to mark safe areas versus mining zones. The pack learned quickly, understanding that certain paths were now forbidden while others remained open. But the compromise had a cost. During one of the security team's attacks, the mother Ravenclaw had been hit. She had taken the shot meant for Lena, just as Lena had thrown herself in front of the pack. The neural disruptor had damaged her nervous system. She could still walk, but her left side dragged slightly. Her hunting ability was compromised. Lena spent every spare moment in the pack's den, treating the mother Ravenclaw with every medicine and therapy she could adapt to Ravenclaw physiology. She worked through exhaustion, through doubt, through fear that she had made everything worse by bringing human attention to this world. On the 5th night, the mother Ravenclaw's condition worsened. Her breathing became labored. Her body temperature dropped. Lena held the massive predator's head in her lap, stroking her scarred fur while Rusty and the other cubs pressed close. I am so sorry, Lena whispered. You trusted me. You let me be part of your family, and I brought danger to your home. The mother Ravenclaw made a soft sound, something between a purr and a whimper. She looked at Lena with eyes that held no anger, only acceptance. Then she looked at Rusty and made a different sound. A command. Rusty whined and pressed closer to his mother. The mother Ravenclaw pushed him gently toward Lena with her nose. The message was clear. Take care of my son. By morning, the mother Ravenclaw was gone. The pack gathered around her body in a circle, making mournful sounds that echoed through the jungle. Lena sat with them, tears streaming down her face as she grieved for a creature that had shown her more trust than she deserved. Rusty stayed pressed against Lena's side. He had lost his mother, but he understood who would protect him now. The pack understood too. One by one, the adult Ravenclaws approached Lena and touched her with their noses. Pack acceptance, pack trust, pack family. She had saved them from extinction, but the cost had been one life given to protect another. The kind of sacrifice that made Lena question everything about humanity's role in the galaxy. That afternoon, footage of the confrontation between security forces and the research team went viral across galactic networks. Images of Lena standing between armed soldiers and the Ravenclaw pack. Video of Rusty answering questions with howls. Recordings of the mother Ravenclaw taking a shot meant for a human. Public opinion shifted overnight. Social media platforms exploded with debates about corporate rights versus wildlife protection. Multiple species called for reforms to planetary development laws. The Talesian Empire submitted a formal proposal to create new classifications for borderline sapient species. Director Sean sent a brief message to Lena. The company's board has reviewed the situation. We are suspending mining operations on Vertus 7, pending resolution of the classification debate. Your research funding has been tripled. Use it wisely. Rector Vol found Lena sitting beside the Mother Ravenclaw's grave that evening. The pack had buried her in a clearing where wildflowers grew, covering the site with stones and branches in a way that seemed far too deliberate for mere animals. You changed the galaxy today, Vol said quietly. I got her killed, Lena replied. No, she chose to protect you the same way you chose to protect her cub. That is what family does. That is what you taught them, and what they taught the galaxy in return. Lena looked at Rusty, who was lying across her feet, at the pack members who had decided she was one of them now, at the stars visible through the jungle canopy above. What happens next? She asked. Next, you teach the rest of us what you know, because the galaxy just realized that humans understand something we have been missing for thousands of years: how to build families across impossible boundaries. 6 months had transformed the research station beyond recognition. What had once been a small outpost housing 17 researchers now sprawled across 3 buildings and accommodated over 60 beings from 12 different species. They came from across the galaxy to learn from Lena, to study her methods, to understand how humanity approached the impossible task of befriending predators. Rusty had grown into his full adult size, standing nearly 6 feet at the shoulder and weighing close to 300 pounds of muscle and hunting instinct. Yet he still followed Lena everywhere like an oversized puppy, sleeping across the foot of her bed and greeting her each morning with rumbling purrs. The pack had accepted her as their new leader after the Mother Ravenclaw's death, a role that both honored and terrified her. Lena stood in the main lecture hall, watching her newest students attempt their first supervised contact with juvenile Ravenclaws. A Plexian named Coordinator Drin approached one of the young pack members with careful, measured movements. The Ravenclaw watched him with wary golden eyes. When Drin extended his hand too quickly, the young predator snarled and backed away. Slower, Lena called out. You are thinking about the movement, but you are not feeling it. The Ravenclaws can sense your anxiety. You need to actually be calm, not just pretend to be calm. How do I make myself calm when facing a creature that could tear my arm off? Drin replied, his translator rendering his frustration in flat, logical tones. By remembering that the creature is more scared of you than you are of it. By focusing on compassion instead of fear. A Corvian researcher named Battle Instructor Grix laughed harshly. Your human emotions may work for you, but my people are warriors. We do not do compassion. Lena had heard variations of this complaint from a dozen species. They came to learn her methods but resisted the fundamental requirement, actually caring about the creatures they studied. For some species, emotion was considered weakness. For others, it simply did not exist in the same way it did for humans. Then you will continue failing to connect with Category 5 predators, Lena said bluntly. I cannot teach you to feel something you do not feel. I can only show you what works and let you decide if the knowledge is worth the change. That afternoon, an urgent message arrived from a mining colony called Outpost Meridian. The situation was critical. Workers had accidentally built their settlement on top of a nesting ground for creatures called ironbacks, massive armored predators that made Ravenclaws look gentle by comparison. 3 rescue teams had already failed to evacuate the trapped workers. Casualties were mounting daily. The Galactic Council sent an official request. Would Dr. Cross attempt contact? Rector Vol tried to argue against it. Ironbacks are nothing like Ravenclaws. They are solitary hunters with no pack structure. They have never shown any social behavior whatsoever. This is too dangerous. Then those workers will die, Lena replied, because nobody else knows how to even try peaceful contact. Raymond packed her equipment while trying to talk her out of going. Lena, we have documented your success with one species. That does not mean your methods will work with all predators. Some creatures are simply too aggressive, too territorial, too alien. Maybe. But I have to try. She took Rusty with her on the transport ship. If nothing else, having another predator present might help the Ironbacks understand she was not a threat. Rector Vol insisted on coming as well, bringing a full security team that promised to intervene only if absolutely necessary. Outpost Meridian was a disaster zone when they arrived. The prefabricated buildings showed massive claw marks and dents from creatures ramming the walls. 15 workers huddled in the central structure, running low on food and medical supplies. Outside, 6 adult ironbacks prowled the perimeter. Each one was twice the size of a ravenclaw, with thick armored plates covering their backs and heads like living tanks. The security team set up a defensive perimeter, while Lena studied the ironbacks through long-range scanners. Their behavior patterns were indeed different from ravenclaws. They did not hunt in packs. They did not share kills. They barely acknowledged each other's presence except to avoid territorial disputes. But something about their movement patterns caught Lena's attention. They were not randomly patrolling. They kept circling back to one specific area beneath the main building's foundation. Protecting something. Scan that section, she told the operator. 3 meters below ground level. The scan revealed a nest cavity. 7 eggs, each one the size of a human torso. The workers had built their outpost directly over an ironback nesting site. The adults were not being aggressive. They were being protective parents. We need to move the workers and the eggs, Lena said. The ironbacks will leave once their nest is relocated to safe territory. Moving the eggs will trigger an attack, Val warned. Every xenobiology text confirms that disturbing predator nests results in immediate lethal response. Every xenobiology text was written by species that see predators as problems to eliminate, not parents protecting their children. Trust me. Lena walked out into the open area where the ironbacks could see her. Rusty stayed close, his presence announcing that she was also a predator, also worthy of respect. The nearest ironback swung its massive head toward her and roared, a sound that shook the ground itself. She knelt down and waited. Just waited. Let the ironback see that she was not attacking, not threatening, not even advancing. She was simply there, present and calm. The ironback charged. 2 tons of armored fury thundering toward her at incredible speed. Lena's survival instinct screamed at her to run, but she stayed still. Rusty growled beside her but did not move. The ironback stopped 3 meters away, close enough that Lena could smell the raw meat on its breath. It snorted, testing her scent. Then it looked at Rusty and made a different sound. Recognition, another predator, another parent. Slowly, carefully, Lena pulled up a holographic display showing the nest beneath the building. She pointed at it, then at the ironback, then at a location 200 meters away where the terrain looked suitable for nesting. The ironback watched with eyes that held more intelligence than any report had suggested. Over the next 6 hours, Lena's team carefully excavated the eggs while the ironbacks watched. Each egg was placed in a temperature-controlled carrier. The adult ironbacks followed as the team transported the eggs to the new nesting site, walking alongside humans and equipment with wary acceptance. When the last egg was secured in the new nest, Lena backed away. The lead ironback, presumably the mother, moved to inspect her clutch. She sniffed each egg carefully, confirming they were unharmed. Then she looked at Lena and made a sound that was almost gentle, not a roar, not a warning. Something else, thank you. The workers evacuated without incident. The ironbacks remained at their new nest site, no longer aggressive now that their eggs were safe. The mission was classified as a complete success with 0 casualties. News of the ironback rescue spread even faster than the Ravenclaw story. Within days, Lena received requests from 15 different worlds facing similar predator conflicts. The Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss humanity's unique capabilities. The result was the creation of the Human-Predator Relations Bureau, with Lena appointed as its first director. Her mandate was simple: teach the galaxy what humanity had learned over thousands of years of domesticating wolves, befriending horses and turning apex predators into loyal companions. But more than that, teach them compassion. The dedication ceremony took place back on Verdus 7. Representatives from 40 species attended. Rector Val gave a speech about how the Talesian Empire had learned humility from watching one human accomplish what their greatest warriors could not. Director Shan announced that Galactic Resources Union was redirecting funds toward conservation instead of exploitation, because public opinion made it profitable to do so. Lena stood at the podium with Rusty at her feet and the rest of the Ravenclaw pack visible in the trees beyond the clearing. Young researchers from dozens of worlds waited to begin their training. Some would succeed, some would fail, but they would all learn that the universe was not divided into predators and prey, threats and resources, us and them. A nervous Plexian student approached Lena after the ceremony. "Director Cross, I have read all the reports. I have studied every technique you documented. But I still do not understand the core principle. What is the secret to connecting with dangerous predators?" Lena knelt beside Rusty and scratched behind his ears the way she had done since he was a small cub crying in a collapsed cave. He leaned into her touch, purring deeply, his eyes half closed with contentment. Around them, the pack watched with the trust that had taken months to build and seconds to prove. "There is no secret," Lena said. "You just have to remember that every creature, no matter how dangerous, was once small and vulnerable. Every predator knows what it means to be scared and alone. If you approach them with genuine kindness instead of fear or dominance, they remember that they know how to trust. Because trust is not a human invention. It is something every parent shares with their child across every species in the galaxy. We just forgot that we could share it with each other too." The Plexian considered this for a long moment. "You are saying that compassion is universal?" "I am saying that compassion is the strongest survival trait in the universe. It just took humanity to prove it." As the sun set over Virtus 7, Lena watched her students scatter into their first training sessions. Some would work with Ravenclaws. Others would train on different worlds with different predators. All of them would learn that the greatest strength in the galaxy was not technology or weapons or logic. It was the simple act of caring for something other than yourself. Rusty rested his head on her shoulder, and somewhere in the jungle the pack howled their approval to the stars. The sound echoed across Virtus 7, across the galaxy, across every world where humans were teaching the universe an ancient lesson that evolution had somehow let other species forget. That kindness was not weakness. That empathy was not foolishness. That sometimes the bravest thing you could do was kneel beside something dangerous and offer it your hand in friendship. The predator cub had growled and then melted in the human's arms. And in doing so, it taught the galaxy that monsters were just scared children, waiting for someone brave enough to care.